I died on my 30th birthday. How did I come back as an 18-year-old boy with the same name and a dangerous memory? I opened my eyes in the old mansion, and a man I knew smiled like a friend. He had a secret. He had betrayed me before. Suddenly I saw my killer in the portrait above the grand staircase. The butler whispered that the heir would run the estate soon. I held my heart. I had one chance to stop the lie, to stop the betrayal, to save my younger sister who did not yet know the truth. But my body was young. My voice was young. Would anyone believe me? I had the memory of death, the truth of the night that ended me. I knew the name of the person who lied, and I remembered the face of the last look I saw. I stood slowly. A chandelier moved in the hall. Someone came up the stairs. Who would I trust when everyone smiled but hid a secret? My name is Lucas. I woke in the east wing of the mansion. The room smelled of old books and roses from the garden. I touched my short red curls and felt youth on my head. A portrait of my father hung above the bed. He was the estate founder. I could remember the night of my death like a clear film. I could remember who smiled when I fell. I walked down the long hall. The butler met me in the library. He bowed and called me Master Lucas. He looked older, tired. He did not know I had the memory of my death. I saw my sister, Anna, in the ballroom. She was 20 years old now. She laughed and danced with friends. She held a glass of juice and did not see my fear. I tried to speak to Anna. She hugged me and said, "Lucas, you look like a boy again. Are you tired?" I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to say, "Anna, your life will break if you trust him." But the words came out weak. I sounded like an 18-year-old child. She smiled and ran away to the portrait room. I met him at the top of the staircase. He wore a dark suit. He was called Ricardo. He was handsome, calm, and he owned many smiles. He put a hand on my shoulder and said, "Welcome home, Lucas. The fortune is safe." His smile felt empty. I watched his fingers. He had a ring with a small black stone. My memory had that ring. It was the last thing I saw before the light went out the night I died. That night I had a secret plan. I would live as a child, learn their moves, and find who betrayed me. I walked the garden alone. The fountain made soft music. I read old letters in the library by the chandelier light. The letters told of money, power, and a fight over the estate. Each letter had a name. My heart beat fast. Ricardo's name was in the last letter. But I was alone with a secret. No one would believe a boy who said he died at 30. The butler thought I was the heir come back young. The neighbors would say I was strange. My sister would be hurt if I accused the wrong man. I had to act with care. I must find proof. I must not be seen as a liar. As I closed the letter, a soft footstep came from the library door. Who wanted to read my letter in the dark? The next day the mansion held a small party in the ballroom. The chandelier shone. Guests arrived from other estates. The heir announcement would happen at the end. I watched Ricardo from the shadow of the portrait room. He moved like a man who knew all rules. He laughed with the guests. He took Anna's hand and talked close. My chest ached. I remembered the last night. I remembered a harsh fight on the ballroom stairs, a slip, and a cold voice. I remembered the ring and the rain. At the party, Ricardo spoke to all. Tonight the estate will name its new manager, he said. The guests clapped. I stood near the garden door. I told myself to be calm. I needed proof in front of them, not just old memory. I looked for the butler. He came and whispered, "Sir, the will is in the library wing safe." I smiled and sighed. Proof could be there. The will might show the truth about the fortune and the hidden names. I walked to the library while everyone watched the speech. The library door was half open. Inside, the safe stood under a portrait. My hands shook. I tried the numbers I remembered from an old dream. The safe clicked. My heart leaped. Inside the will, the paper showed who had rights and who did not. My eyes fell on one line, Ricardo, interim heir, to hold fortune until Anna turns 25. Suddenly the room spun. The will was real, but the signature looked wrong, smudged as if someone had forced the hand. I took a photo with my phone. I ran back to the ballroom. I wanted to show Anna. But when I came, Anna held Ricardo's arm. A guest stood and said, "To the new heir." The crowd cheered. Ricardo raised his glass with a smile that cut my soul. I felt betrayed all over again. I pushed toward Anna and shouted, "Look!" The will, the music stopped. Eyes turned. Silence hit the chandelier. People stared at a boy who shouted at the rich man. Laughter rose. Someone said, "Who is this child?" Ricardo's eyes met mine. His smile did not fall. He walked to me slowly and touched my cheek as if I were a stray dog. "You are confused, child," he said softly. "Come sit. Eat your cake." My face burned. I had proof, but I looked like a mad boy in front of the crowd. I was not only betrayed before, I was humiliated now. I must find a better plan. As I stepped away, a woman in a black dress watched me and mouthed a name. Was she my ally or foe? I left the ballroom and ran to the garden. The night air smelled like wet stone and roses. I sat on the garden bench and wept in silence. I thought of the night I died. I saw the rain, the small fight, and the fall at the staircase. I saw a hand push a glass into my hand. I saw the ring glint in a flash. My mind played the scene again and I felt the touch on my arm. I knew the exact hour of the betrayal. If I could replay that night, I could find the proof that did not lie. I hatched a plan. Ricardo would watch me less if I became a quiet child. He would show his true face when he feared losing power. I pretended to sleep by the portrait room and left a note for the butler. The note told the butler to bring the portrait down for cleaning. I hoped to see the hidden space behind it. The butler did as I wrote. He brought the portrait and worked fast with a cloth. I watched his hands tremble. He found a small envelope hidden in the frame. He gave it to me alone. Inside the envelope was a folded photograph. It showed me, older, arguing with Ricardo on the staircase years ago. In the corner was a drop of dried water. On the back of the photo was a note, "Keep him quiet. We must move now." My eyes went cold. This was not just a random smear. This was a plan. The note had a name that I did not expect. It was Anna's close friend, Marina, a woman in a black dress who now smiled at me in secret. My chest hit the bench. Could Marina be the traitor? My memory had not seen her hand that night. I needed Marina to speak. I followed her across the garden into the wing of the mansion. She moved like a cat, hiding in the hedge. I stepped out and called, "Marina." She spun. Her face froze. She had a small scar on her cheek. I remembered that scar. It matched a photo in the portrait room. She held her breath and said, "Lucas, you should not be here." I looked at her and said the name on the note. She fell silent. Her eyes filled with fear. "Why did you write that?" I asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She took one step back. A figure watched us from the library window. Ricardo stood there like a shadow. He smiled and turned away. Who was watching us now as the truth came nearer? The full truth came like a thunderclap. Marina wept and confessed in the library under the chandelier. She said she signed the false will because Ricardo promised to keep her secret and to save her family. She had been afraid. She told how she hid the paper and how she pushed at the wrong time that night. Her voice cracked when she said she never meant to kill me. The butler brought the old audio recorder I had hidden in the portrait frame. I pressed play. The recorder had a voice. It was Ricardo. He bargained with Marina, his voice cold. He said, "Make it look like an accident. Take the blame. The fortune will be mine by my hand later." The room snapped silent. Anna ran to me and held my hand. She said, Lucas, you told the truth. I am sorry. I felt the weight in my chest ease. The identity reveal was brutal and clear. Ricardo had used Marina and the will to make me silent. He wanted the estate. He wanted our fortune. He had smiled the night I died. Now his face crumbled in front of the guests. The police arrived because the butler had called. Ricardo's ring shone one last time as he was led away. He did not smile anymore. I stood by the portrait under the chandelier and breathed. I had been reborn to stop betrayal. I kept my memory as proof, but I also kept mercy. Marina would get help and Anna would get the truth. The mansion felt warm and sad at once. The lesson is clear for those who learn English and life. Truth can come back to live again. A second chance is a heavy gift. Use it to protect the people you love. Protect the garden where a child sat and cried, and protect the library where letters hold secrets. Life may give you a second turn. Be brave, but be kind. As the butler closed the curtains, I looked at Anna and whispered, "We start again." A last footstep echoed on the stairs. Who will walk with us into the morning?